Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. We're now moving into the second part of Hillel's question of Pirkei Avot, where Hillel asks us a two-part question, actually. If I am only for myself, what am I? This is Hillel's great question, continuing forward this wonderful idea that we're using to frame Pirkei Avot. And I think that what Hillel is basically asking us builds on the question that came before, and knowing who you are and having character and doing good things all become the basis for figuring out what it is that we're about and how to look beyond ourselves as we figure these questions out. Because we live in a world that requires interaction and extends beyond our own selves or even our own self-interest. As baby boomers in particular, we're very well aware that others are counting on us, that they're needing us to do things both with them and for them. And there's also a larger question, a broader question of how we fit into society. Our responsibilities, in fact, go beyond just the immediate circle of our family. And if you can picture concentric circles, if you will, kind of like a target, which is probably an interesting analogy, we're at the center. And of course, the family is the circle that's immediately outside of us. And then the communities to which we belong are outside of that, be they the Jewish community, be they the town in which we live, be it the nation, or in fact, even the world itself. And I think one of the questions that gets posed is, how do we interact with those various things, and how far does our reach extend? And one of the interesting questions, I think, of course, is the interaction or the relatedness of each of those circles to each other. I would posit to you that unless you're capable of taking care of the inner circle, you're not capable of fully being able to interact with the outer circle, that they're dependent upon each other, that unless you're able to understand who you are relative to your parents or your children, that talking about community, somehow there's an emptiness to it. And there's another important piece as well, which I believe Hillel is pointing out to us that many of our commentators pick up on, which is the way he asks the second part of the question, what am I? The commentators note that the question is what instead of who am I, which is maybe what you would expect. And it's interesting that the understanding, I think, is that when we're solely focused on our own needs, we lose the human piece, that thing that touches others and is likewise touched by others. We move from being a person with feelings to becoming somewhat objectified, to in fact becoming a what. And for us boomers, I think it's something very important to consider. When the kids need the help with the homework and the relationships and the school and the romances, and the parents need a visit and some help maybe getting to the doctor and some time to feel needed and some time to feel relevant themselves, and the spouse is feeling somehow neglected or not being seen or honored, and the dog needs to go to the vet, and the report is due in the office tomorrow, and you got to get the groceries. It's kind of hard to remember that, in fact, you are a person and that you really are more than a what. And it's a really good time to dig deep and to remember why you do the things that you do, to take a breath and to acknowledge your place and how you are valued in the various capacities in which you serve. Yehuda Hanassi, Judah the Prince, the rabbi who's credited with compiling the Mishnah, as the author of the first text that we're sharing now. And I think that there's real wisdom in that he offers the idea of honor as a key to understanding how to bridge between yourself and with others. Rabbi exhorts us to act with honor in a way that others also will honor us because of those actions. Now, that's not to say I believe for a moment that he's advocating. I don't believe for a moment that he's advocating grandstanding and doing the big things that garner the applause and the praise, because Rabbi goes on to say that the little things are as important as the big things, and we never really know which one is important until afterwards. Finally, Rabbi lets us know that there's accountability, and that if we are to be people aspiring to virtue, that we need to hold ourselves answerable for both the good and for the bad things that we do. Rabbi Ishmael in Pirkei Avot 3, verse 12 says, "Be speedy to obey a superior, be dignified before the young, and cheerfully greet every person." Rabbi Ishmael is telling us that all people have value and should be treated as so. Every person deserves to be recognized and treated with respect and dignity. And when we act this way, then frankly, we are also therefore held in respect. And furthermore, we can hold our heads high, knowing that we have acted well, even when there are others who might be critical or might not think that in fact we have. I'd like to continue on the issue of the value of people, which was something we touched on in our last discussion together, and move into Ben Zoma's proverb in Pirkei Avot 4, verse 1, where Zoma asks rhetorically, "Who is wise?" To which he responds himself, "The one who learns from everyone." And here we capture the value of each individual. For we look to each individual encounter as an opportunity to learn something new when we are learning from everyone. And if we approach another person with the belief that they have something to teach us, then in fact we offer them the respect that so many times we tend to forget truly should exist. There's an old saying that talks about the beauty of youth, that the young look at things through fresh eyes, and how amazing it is when someone sees something unfettered by the experiences that tell them it can't be done. We get to enjoy the enthusiasm of the young and shrug off the cynical view that we might have had and become energized when we see the world, the existing world, the old world in yet a new way. And people around us do that all the time. Our kids are amazing windows as we're looking at the old in a new way and looking at the new in a new way. If you're having trouble, by the way, with your computer as you're trying to watch this, just ask your 6-year-old to straighten it out, and you know what? In a couple of seconds, it'll be done, and you're just going to look and scratch your head and not be able to understand how they did it or what was going on, or if you could duplicate it, but lo and behold, there it is. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we move from the children to maybe our parents, and when you think about your parents, it's interesting to stop for a moment and think about how much they actually still have yet to teach us. Now, before you roll your eyes, flash back to those kids again. How many times have we said to them, or have we said under our breath, "We know how this thing you are doing or is about to do will end. Life experience has taught me such and such. So listen to me so that you don't have to learn the hard way like I did." Now, think about your parents again. They have the wisdom of life experience. Let them share. At a time when people seem to be so often feeling marginalized, no longer relevant, old, shunted aside, you honor them by sitting at their knee, and who knows, you may actually learn something. Anything is possible. Now, Hillel said in another verse, in chapter 2, verse 4 of Pirkei Avot, "Don't separate yourself from the community." As we live in a world that glorifies the self and our independence, remember that we're still actually really very social creatures. And the value we find in our independence is often really connected to the group anyway. The community gives us that sense of strength, a place to share our joy, and a place to find comforts in times of sorrow. When we participate and we give back as well as take from, we're actually truly nurtured. Now, I remember, for example, my first car. I was so excited. I just couldn't wait to hop in and start driving right away, and I did. I jumped into the car, and I made a beeline to my friend Larry's house. Well, unfortunately, Larry wasn't home, and as overwhelmingly happy as I was, I suddenly became crestfallen that he wasn't around to show him my car. Now, the truth was that it was only a Chevy Vega, and it was soon to become the rust bucket of the GM line. But in that moment, it was something special because of the opportunity I had to share it with somebody that I happened to care about. And of course, on the other side is the pain. We are at a time in our lives when loss is becoming a part of our normal routine. Friends and parents of friends are dying. How profoundly lonely a time to lose a loved one. But it is the community that helps get the grieved through. In fact, the Jewish wisdom tradition, in the Shiva Minyan, for example, says that since the mourner cannot come to the synagogue to pray because of the pain of the loss, it's the community that goes to the mourner's home. We pray with them, we sit with them, we share stories with them about the ones that have been lost, and we bring them food as an expression of love for them. Because of what we do, the mourner is able to make it through the traumatic initial period of loss and begin the process of slowly integrating back into life. So there is true value in being with others, in serving others. So the question, if I am only for myself, what am I? Well, I guess the question is less than a person, less than a mensch. And herein lies the wisdom. So it becomes our opportunity to become fully human by participating and loving others. I'll look forward to having a continued conversation with you as we begin to wrap up with Hillel's final verses. If not now, when? I'll look forward to talking to you more.